did you go to school?
And here's your name.
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
Well, I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, crims, and con artists. I'm Jack the Insider, otherwise known as Peter Hoisted for tax purposes.
And I'm Joel Hill, and it turned out that Florida was not in play.
You don't say, Joel. I remember you said something along the lines of Harris will piss it in after she wins Florida. Result by 6 p.m. Well, we did have a bit of a result by 6 p.m., but it wasn't the one you or indeed much of the world wanted.
Well, as I like to say, what's 13% between friends? So, look, you don't say, Jack. I fucking feel it. You're all laughing at me, I know. But, look, it wasn't quite what I expected it to be. My apologies to anyone who took my prediction seriously, including myself. And extra apologies for anyone who took a punt on it. Because, you know, if it makes you feel any better, I burned through a lot of money, almost all my savings. And while I do feel like I had a pretty good reason to be confident, I do miss having money. It was nice. It felt good. But I can't feel too bad. I mean, The Onion has taken over Alex Jones' InfoWars, but will we really notice the difference? That's kind of the same thing, right?
I think we need to include a new caveat into, into gambling advertising now. Don't bet over your head, that sort of thing. Could you imagine what you could do with this money, what other things you could do with this money? I think we need another caveat is don't do what Joel does.
Also, don't bet on America being sane, reasonable, or smart, because it turns out they're none of them at all, and they probably never will be. So,
you got that. You essentially had a wager on the sanity of the United States or the population of the United States of America. Yeah, plenty of sane people there.
Yeah, there are.
But quite a few who thought, let's give Donald Trump another go, and this one will probably be even worse than last time.
To be fair, I did buy a short position in an index fund on the US economy a long time ago as another hedge on something else. And I just left it there. It's worth like $50. I think it's about to go up in value.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Look, certainly the markets have responded favourably. That's largely due to the tax cuts and so forth. But there have been a lot of appointments being made. In fact, the word appointment is not quite right. It is a nomination from the president.
Yes.
And particularly those sort of portfolios, if you like, secretaries, they will be subject to scrutiny by the Senate, where Trump has a majority, or the Republicans have a majority, a narrow majority. But some of them we think may not stand it.
No.
It may not last through the process. I'm not sure about RFK. But we do need to start with him because he was the man who gave up his presidential campaign as a spoiler candidate for Trump to glom onto his campaign with the promise of becoming a member of Trump's cabinet, which is now, well, he's been nominated now. He's going to make America healthy again. By looking back fondly on the good old days of low life expectancy, lead in water pipes, and a reduction in red tape that prevents fine drugs like thalidomide being released into the market. Yep, we are making America healthy again, just like the good old days.
Yes, and while the election result has been soul-crushing and the constant reminder of the absolute worst people in the world are cheering right now, that has been making this one of the more depressing chapters of our lives. The one thing we still have is beer. And of course, CB Coke beer is the only one you would reach for. I'm currently enjoying the NEPA, which is a fucking great drop. But look, if you want to drown your sorrows, there's no beer like it. I mean, this has been getting me through the past couple of weeks, believe me. For a light sorrow smashing, there is the midi and the gold tins, which will give you a nice, refreshing sense of salvation.
Mango.
Well, yeah, it's a nice beer. But if you really want to get in there, the NEPA or the yellow IPA tin has enough booze in it to make you forget all about what the fuck just happened.
If it's brown, drink it down.
Well, I mean, look, if you can get drunk enough to find this whole thing funny and more or less forget about politics as a concept, you'll be doing well. But do drink responsibly, because while I do encourage you sort of blanking out the past couple of weeks of our lives, at any moment now, RFK Jr. might knock on your door, kick it down, and make you do push-ups for having too many beers in you.
Get down and give me 20.
You know he'd do it. That's the kind of health fascism we're facing, listeners. I know you're not facing deportation, but you may be forced to do mandatory push-ups because your calorie intake has increased. So we're facing here.
Well, maybe the beers aren't helping you, Joel. I don't know. I think you might have to go to something a little stronger, like hemlock.
Yes.
Have a couple of schooners of that.
What's that horrific wormwood stuff? Absinthe, yeah.
Absinthe, but you don't get the good absinthe in Australia. They banned the wormwood stuff.
No, it's just sort
when
of
I say
licorice
good
flavoured
stuff, the stuff that makes you mad.
and makes you eat your own ears.
Yeah, that you want to cut. You're so mad that you want to cut your ears off. Look, all I want to say is please remember we have a Patreon, and it not only helps us keep going, but there's a bunch of content up there for you to enjoy. Some of it, admittedly, is funnier if you've been drinking.
And that's where DECAY comes into it again. You know, it all works. So look, I just lost all my money, so please actually do join the Patreon because I'm about $1,000 away from actually signing up for Uber Eats and delivering pizzas on a bicycle, and I probably will die because, Ray Hadley.
I'll have a family pepperoni, please, Joel. Make it fucking snappy.
Do you know how long it would take me to bike ride down to your place? Do you know how long that's going to take?
It's a 2-day trip. Well, look, let's get healthy and look at the absolute shit fuckery of the RFK Jr. plan. This is what we're devoting the episode today, more or less. RFK plan, and we're going to pull it apart and have a look at it. His plan to make America healthy again. Mm-hmm. But before we get underway, let's start with the biggest spray I've ever come across. And I've heard a few, but this one comes from Ben Dominic. I think his name is, it's a CHK sort of sound.
I'd never heard of him before.
He's a Fox panelist, made a bit of a noise at Washington Post when WAPO employed him as their blogger. And we're going back 10 or 15 years ago. And he was very conservative. And a lot of the WAPO stuff weren't very comfortable about it. So, as I say, deeply conservative man. And this is what he thinks of Matt Gaetz. I realise that we are occasionally given to hyperbole about the untoward nature of politicians, but let me be clear. Matt Gaetz is a sex-trafficking, drug-addicted piece of shit. No. He is abhorrent. His eyes are permanently rimmed with the red rings of chemical boosters.
Same.
In person, he smells like overexposed Axe body spray and stale Astroglide. There's an image. The fact that he boasted on the floor to multiple colleagues in the House of Representatives of his methods of crushing Viagra and high-test Red Bull to maintain his erection through his orgiastic evenings is perhaps the least offensive of his many crimes against womanhood and Christian faith. The man has less principles than your average fentanyl-addicted hobo. Mm-hmm. No arguments there. He likes them underage, and he's not ashamed about it. Matt Gaetz isn't just your average extreme Florida MAGA man. He's a hypocritical ass with the worst Botox money can buy, showing an ever thinner nose and higher cheekbones at every opportunity like a real housewife gone mad for fillers. Right. Every Republican in Washington has an opinion about Matt Gaetz, and 99% of those opinions are, keep Matt Gaetz away from my wife, daughter, friend, and anyone I care about.
Not bad. Not bad.
And it has, and as we record this on the 16th of November, we have a witness coming forward, Joel, that says that she saw Matt Gaetz having sex with an underage girl, a woman. And that's going to be very interesting. As I say, and some of this stuff will be done before the president is actually sworn in. Some of it will be done afterwards. That's January 20, the swearing in. And Matt Gaetz will face the Senate, and it'll be a fairly hostile environment.
Yes,
there will be other witnesses called. I can't see him surviving it. But whether RFK does or not is still to be. I think he'll get through. And so he will have an impact on health policy. This is an anti-vaxxer, folks. He will have a big impact on health policy for the foreseeable. We'll talk about his potential to be in the administration for a long period of time. But as it stands, I think he'll get through the Senate hearing, and then he will have direct impact. And we're gonna tell you just exactly how right now.
Yes, we are. Now, I'm going to preface this very quickly by saying that my inner cooker, my 15-year-old self, is dying to see what RFK Jr. gets up to. I had very, very strong feelings about fluoride, vaccines as well, and all the other things that he plans to really fuck with. So I'm just going to preface this absolute horror show with saying, you know what? I am morbidly fucking curious. Let's see what happens. There is a small part of me that is enjoying this slightly. Now, in late August, we saw RFK Jr. suspend his presidential campaign to endorse Donald Trump. I'm sure you all know that. And this comes on the back of a fairly rocky relationship, which saw the Cook Kennedy call Trump a, quote, terrible human being and suggested that Trump was, quote, probably a sociopath.
Probably a sociopath.
I mean, if we're following common knowledge, it takes one to know one. That is the playground concept I want to bring in here, because it takes Mr. Measles here. Really, he seems to struggle with the concept of empathy himself, because he
not good at it.
He spread out anti-vaccine nonsense in Samoa, which led to an outbreak causing the death of 80 people. So I don't remember hearing him look back on that with remorse.
Yeah,
So,
that's probably what he's saying, Joel. Trump is probably a sociopath because he's a lot like me.
Exactly.
I can see a lot of similarities, yeah.
Oh, I just see myself in his eyes. His cold, dead eyes. So, however, when it comes to the Donald, despite their past differences, they came on stage united at a rally in Arizona where Kennedy said that free speech, the war in Ukraine, and a war on our children were among the reasons he was going to pull his name from the national ballot, or at least the states he was on. But, look, it's unsure who is waging war on the children and how, but we can only assume that it's the Democratic Party and it's something to do with woke gayness.
The gays are doing it to the kids.
Gays have got to be doing this. I mean, they're so resourceful. I mean, you got to hand it to them, really. So at the rally, Trump.
First thing you've got to just, there's the old cliche of being absolutely spellbound in awe at the temerity of Kennedy to say that somehow his free speech is being denied while he's a fucking candidate for the presidency of the United States.
Isn't it just wild shit?
Give me a break.
Elon Musk will say, free speech is being suppressed. Like, bro, you have the biggest mouthpiece in the world. Shut up. Jesus Christ. Anyway, look, at the rally, Trump suggested that his father, Robert F. Kennedy, and uncle, John F. Kennedy, would be happy with his decision, saying that he knows, quote, that they are looking down right now and they are very, very proud.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, is Trump's speculation on point? Or because this separates him, sort of the two deceased elders, from the rest of the family, who have described his endorsement of Trump as, quote, a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear.
Yeah, I'm going with that, Joe. Yeah, I'm going with that one.
Yeah, I think it's hard to believe what to believe because Trump's got a lot of inside knowledge on these things. So, look, another family member is equally excited by his potential appointment. This is from The Guardian. It's a quote.
Ted Kennedy Jr., a cousin of RFK Jr. and a healthcare lawyer, said he was, and I quote, deeply concerned about Trump's choice. We can't put anyone in charge of healthcare who doesn't understand how doctors and scientists develop best practices and keep us safe, and has no medical background and no knowledge about how healthcare is organised, delivered and paid for.
Ringing endorsement.
Yeah, got to say, he might have you there, Bobby.
He might have you there. But then again, sucked in, who's going to be the secretary? There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, winner, chicken dinner. He does have a plan to shine light on the death of his forebears, though, because he's saying he will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts that will release all remaining documents related to John F. Kennedy's assassination. I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. What's being withheld is not very much.
No, probably not.
It's not going to be very comprehensive.
It assumes there's a bombshell. You know what I mean?
They're going to have a look at Trump's assassination attempt. I mean,
I believe that's the case
knows
as well.
so little about what's gone on there.
Oh, they're just going to make shit up anyway. So, welcome to the fucking post-truth administration. It's going to be ridiculous. You did that Bill Hicks sketch where, they bring him in and they show the video of the JFK assassination from the other angle, and they say, "Any questions?" And it's like, yes, that's right. But how can you believe that now? The deep state is dead. Trump just got reelected, so fuck it, whatever. Democracy might actually
deep
work.
state's in outrageous, rude health, Joel. Trump told Tucker Carlson that Kennedy was, and I quote, going to work on health and women's health. Oh,
great.
Perfect. He really wants to with the pesticides and the, all the different things. It's a man with a great grasp of just about everything. I said he can't do it. Oh, so I said he can do it. He can do anything he wants. He wants to look at the vaccines. He wants everything. I think it's great. RFK Jr. has indicated support for a national abortion ban, I think at 15 weeks. However, he walked back those comments soon after making them. it will be very interesting to see what his idea of women's health is. But it's bound to be him telling women what to do.
It's bound to be that, especially including Gardasil, which I'm sure we'll get to later. Not a big fan. Big fan.
Well, we
of
do have a
cervical
two-parter.
cancer.
Such is the RFK agenda, Joe,
It is.
that we
it's a
have
very big one.
to basically look at his pronouncements and the sort of things he might get up to. So this will take us in a two-parter. This is a two-parter of the conditional release program.
It is a big one. But also,
let's get underway with part one.
yes, indeed. Well, I will give you a bit of a caveat here, though. What you had to say there with that Trump quote, like that was verbatim. Reading it is torture. You read it and just the words, it's absolute breakfast.
Commas and shit. Anyway.
Oh, I just can't. It's so well done. You got through it. So while his attempt to remove himself from the ballot failed in some states due to a general lack of knowing what a deadline is, he made it clear that he was on Team Trump and he was now going to be sort of notionally promised a position in the cabinet, which, of course, pending confirmation, will be the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. As we said before, got to get confirmed. Now it's just a nomination. Now, what we actually know is that Trump said that RFK Jr. was going to have a big role in the administration, and he promised him control of the nation's public health agencies and that he was going to let Kennedy go wild on health, which turns out to be true. Turns out he's in charge of the whole damn fucking thing, pending confirmation, as we said. But
yes, indeed.
Look, if I was not terrified of gambling markets, I would bet that he's going to get through.
We'll talk about that. I think you're right. Well, we'll talk about that at the end of the program or as we get towards the end of the program. What are his chances of getting through?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all speculation, but like I saw today, just as a bit of a side note, during the Mike Tyson fight, which was completely pointless, someone had a Make America Healthy Again hat in the ring. It's not like this is happening. This is so fucking happening. So here's the plan. It started. His plan to make America healthy again. And his most well-known policy is the day one plan to remove fluoride from drinking water in the US.
Huzzah!
About fucking time. Now, I have been a long-time fluoride skeptic, having believed for many years that it was introduced to tap water in order to dispose of industrial byproducts and to placate the public and make them stupid. This is not
sure about that, Joel.
Well, look, I've had a look into it. I don't think that's the case. I mean, like, once I realised that most of Queensland doesn't have fluoride in the water, they're dumb as dog shit. I started to think that maybe this theory needed further investigation, right? Fuck, we're going to get fan mail for that. And I had a chat with my good friend Tom Ellis, a scientist of high repute, who helped me see that it is not impossible, but quite likely that all of this is complete bullshit. Scientists are always like that. They're always very uncertain. But just like anything, it's not about the fact that it comes in a big scary barrel with a skull and crossbones in it. It's a matter of the dose. And in our water, the dose is very low.
Yes, it is. Look, just a quick breakaway there, Joel. There are, I think, around about a third of the Queensland councils don't have access to fluoridate, or people who live in those council areas don't have access to fluoridated water. They tend to be in the regions and remote Queensland. But that's the only part of Australia that doesn't have it. So we actually have an inbuilt control group. But there's other evidence that this is a really bad idea of RFK's. Joel?
Okay, well, I'm just going to ask you, just totally anecdotally, do you think that the regional parts of Queensland are our bastion of thought and creativity?
No, but I would also add that the kids out there with their teeth are really battling. Look,
Okay.
it's a profound issue for Aboriginal health too. So for proper dental health in remote rural areas. So we do have some problems there, and fluoridating the water has been a profound success in Australia and everywhere else.
And the places without fluoride are not bastions of thought. So we can always just put that together and see how that works, anecdotally, of course. So, look, let's get to the real shit here. There are studies that suggest that fluoride in water can lower IQ. Let's not shy away from this. Let's have a look. Those studies are generally quite shit. I'm sure you saw that coming. One study suggested that drinking fluoridated water during pregnancy could lower the IQ of children at point of age to 3 or 4 years old. Of course, they tested them then because before that, they tend to goo and gar a lot. They're quite fucking stupid anyway. But this, of course, is catnip to cookers who want to make the fluoride argument about saving the children, but there was no causative link between the fluoride in the water and the IQ of the children. You won't be surprised. That's in the main text of the fucking study. They also didn't factor in things like socioeconomic status.
Oops-a-daisy.
Yeah, well, I wonder what that would have an impact on IQ ever. idiots. And not only that, but it was also found that fluoride was found to make boys dumber, but girls smarter.
What?
Good quality science there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was worth publishing in a fucking journal. Anyway. Yeah, great. So another recent report has claimed that high levels of exposure to fluoride, 1.5 milligrams per litre, is associated with lower IQ in children. Now, the association between the lower IQ and the highly fluoridated water, highly being in bold text there, is described as moderate confidence. Most water systems have 0.7 milligrams of fluoride, and while water in New South Wales does have an average of 1 milligram per litre, it is under 1.5. This is actually published online if you want to see it there. On the flip side of all of that, the CDC described fluoridation of drinking water in the 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. But in the defense of RFK Jr., they would say that, wouldn't they? You know, they would. That's right. So the RFK Jr. plan to remove fluoride from the water supply from the US on day one might hit a snag, though, because you see, approximately 1.9 million Americans are drinking tap water with naturally occurring fluoride at levels above 1.5 milligrams per litre. Yes, fluoride is naturally occurring. It's not created in factories. And sometimes it's just not added to processed water sources because it comes from rocks and shit. Is he going to send them water filters? Is he going to install them at the municipal level? I think they're going to be the control group of this big Maha experiment, to be honest.
Yeah.
All these fucking rednecks with great teeth.
Well, it's the Alberta experience in Canada that I really love. So let's get to that.
Yes. So if the results of the Maha move are anything like that of the Calgary experiment in Alberta, it's not going to end well. So after removing fluoride from the water supply in 2000, they voted by a plebiscite to reintroduce the mineral into the water supply in 2021, 10 years later, at a significant cost because the infrastructure to fluoridate the water had been decommissioned and fucking removed. So you can do this.
So as one mumbled through their broken teeth that they wanted the fluoride back, please.
Oh, by the way, not famous for being smart. If you know Alberta,
really. It is
not famous for being smart.
It is Trump territory in Canada.
It is Alberta. The Texas of Canada. It's
This is a report from CTV News in Calgary. James A. Dickinson, a professor of medicine at the University of Calgary, said the rates of dental treatments under anaesthesia, so obviously very serious dental problems, have risen steadily in Calgary since the loss of fluoridation. We are concerned, this is a quote from Mr. Dickinson, Dr. Dickinson, we are concerned about avoidable and potentially life-threatening disease, pain, suffering, misery and expense experienced especially by very young children and their families due to dental decay. Those that survive those that survive the measles pandemic or epidemic anyway. In just years after fluoridation ended in 2011, this is Dickinson again, the need for intravenous antibiotic therapy by children to avoid death by infection rose 700% at the Alberta Children's Hospital. According to Dickinson, a recent University of Alberta study shows that for children under 5 years of age, the rate of dental treatments under anaesthesia doubled from 22 per 100,000 in 2010-11 to 45 per 100,000 in 2019. For kids aged 6 to 11, the rates rose from 14 per 100,000 to 19 per 100,000. The rates stayed the same over that time period in Edmonton, where the water remained fluid. Since fluoridation, this is a quote again from Dickinson, since fluoridation ceased, the cavities in teeth are more numerous and larger. These might require filling or extractions. They are occurring earlier in a child's life, so the treatment can require general anaesthesia. Now, we don't have data on whether, those kiddies who were operated under anaesthesia got smarter as a result of not consuming fluoride.
And also, just as
but their teeth are falling out.
But I look back on that just to emphasize the importance of that. Like you said, the need for intravenous antibiotic therapy, like hospitalization for infection. And the dental work you're talking about wasn't just like going to the corner store. It's hospital.
It is just one. It's obviously one of the more serious outcomes, but it is something that's measurable.
Crazy.
And so you are dealing with, again, fairly serious dental outbreaks. We don't have data about whether kids have got smarter off the fluoride or not. We do have a raft of data that bad dental health, where bacteria from gum disease can spread to other parts of your body through your bloodstream, including your heart,
Yeah.
This is where Australia is at the moment because we've got a bit of a crisis in our own dental health.
We do.
This bacteria can cause inflammation in your heart's vessels and valves, which can lead to infections of the heart lining called endocarditis, clogged arteries, also known as atherosclerosis, heart attacks and strokes. So there's all that.
There is. Yeah. Go to your dentist, guys. Please go to your fucking dentist. So turning off the fluoride supply at a municipal level will certainly help alleviate the lack of conclusive evidence on the impact of fluoride on the IQ of children because
Yeah, we're going to get a lot more data. Yeah.
we're about to get a lot of data, right? And of course, this may be offset by the economic hardships that people are about to face thanks to Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, i.e. the billionaire who's cutting your welfare, and Trump's plan to abolish the Department of Education. I think that might skew the data, would it not?
Yeah, it's certainly going to add some other factors in there, isn't it?
I think it is. So, look, those that benefit the most from water fluoridation are those that do not have access to dental care. It's
Correct.
a very socioeconomic thing. And unfortunately, Kennedy, a man whose only struggle in life has been scoring black tie heroin, has not included the increase in access to dental care for people in lower socioeconomic status in his Maha plan to date. I haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
Is that
Where's his
something-
heroin dealer? Why can't I pick up heroin? Just, why isn't it just sold out of vending machines?
I tell you what, that'll be the first thing he makes legal, and I've got mixed feelings about that one. That is,
Heroin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the country's fucked already. If you're not on fentanyl, you're on bloody painkillers.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, that'll
So-
be another thing. Yeah.
Oh, God. We'll
The
probably
rates of
have a part
fentanyl,
three at this
abuse,
point.
which are stratospheric at the moment.
It's real fucking sad. Anyway.
It is. It's
Look,
awful.
if RFK Jr. ends up being the thing that brings comeuppance to people like Purdue Farmer, I will enjoy that. There will be some cool things about this. I'm just glad I'm not American. So the removal of fluoride in drinking water can be offset by using fluoridated toothpaste, of course. Just don't rinse immediately after brushing, which I tend to do. Don't swallow it, though, because remembering dose matters.
Nah.
You don't want to have it all at once.
Stop with your nanny state nonsense, Joe.
Look, you're not wrong.
You swallow that toothpaste down, kids.
Oh, man, that's a good place to get sued. So the fluoride thing is probably the most commonly discussed thing that Bobby Kay has planned, but there's so many things. Because in a tweet on October 26, he laid out his plan to end the FDA's war on public health. Oh, this is a multifaceted one. Finally, someone is going to address the elephant in the room, which is the FDA's aggressive suppression of, you have to wait to part 2 for this one, sunlight.
Sunlight. Our old enemy. The sun.
Look, it's about to become our friend because finally the craggy-faced conspiracy theorists are having their way. Fuck me. Anyway, read the tweet.
Well, here's a tweet from RFK that basically just runs down what he's intending to do. He said, FDA's war on public health is about to end.
Good.
Oh, my God. This includes its aggressive suppression of psychedelic heroin. Sorry, no. Psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, hyperbaric therapies. What? Chelating compounds. We'll explain what those are.
We will.
Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. Oh, here we go. Vitamins, clean foods. What? Sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals. Everyone will falcon in America. Everyone will go take their falcons out hunting.
Yes,
that's to get a bit of exercise that way.
Government allocated falcons.
It's just a sport for the people, falconing.
Yes, it really is.
Where did I get to? Sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals. It's basically just supplements and bullshit. And anything else that advances human health and can't be patented by pharma. He didn't call it big pharma because they're not big anymore. He's got to smash them.
Their stock prices have all dropped.
And he went on to say, if you work for the FDA and are part of this corrupt system, I have 2 messages for you. 1, preserve your records, and 2, pack your bags.
I don't know why you preserve your records. If you,
so let's just keep, this is like how Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge basically operated in Kampuchea.
Yeah.
So they got rid of all the really smart people. Mm-hmm. That was the thing. If you were multilingual, you were bound for execution. Or
I'm pretty sure glasses got you the chop.
All the smart people, or anyone who was educated, anyone who had a professional job, gone.
Stalin was a big fan of that kind of vibe in his cabinet too. You're a bit smart. You seem threatening.
It's kind of amazing. This is where we are. Anyway.
Insane. Anyway. So glad I'm not American. So, look, there is a lot to unpack, but we'll get there. What do you got to say about this?
Yeah, look, just a quick thing about the creation of the FDA. The FDA was created in 1908, largely in response to a book published by Upton Sinclair, who was a muckraking journalist, a progressive, who spent a couple of months working in the Chicago stockyards for the socialist newspaper Appeal to Reason.
Oh, okay.
And they published the novel in serial form in 1905. The novel was later published in book format by Doubleday in 1906 and renamed The Jungle. It's a very famous book in America because it detailed, Sinclair detailed just the lack of any sanitary or hygiene standards around the preparation of meat and meat products. Here's the briefest of samples. The meat would be shoveled into carts, and the man who did the shoveling would not trouble to lift out a rat even when he saw one.
Good.
Lots of rats, more than a few maggots, some fairly disturbing sort of text that he describes as a very good journalist, the very good journalist that he was. And the effect of it became a bestseller. The effect of this was actually shocked Americans. So we're dealing with 1906, 1904, the first decade of the 20th century, and refrigeration was around, all this sort of stuff. We are still dealing with this sort of Gilded Age period of the United States where capital was just not constrained by any form of regulation, be it monopolies around the railways and tobacco production and banking and finance and all that sort of stuff. But when it came to the preparation of food, this kind of naked capitalism was basically delivering food onto the tables of Americans that was not prepared in a sanitary or hygienic sort of circumstance.
It's not great.
Americans were absolutely outraged, and as a result, the FDA was created initially to oversee food sanitation, but also to examine drug safety, because we are dealing in that first decade of the 20th century, and there was a shitload of snake oil around.
Yeah, and heroin and cocaine in vials, which I have mixed feelings about, but here we are.
I don't know whether to this day whether it's an urban myth that the original Coke recipe included cocaine.
I believe it did, and I believe that also there is an alkaloid in it, which is a flavorant, and that the cocaine byproducts are used for medical purposes for topical anesthetic. That's what I vaguely know, but I
Can we
actually
just
know
pause
someone
there, Joel? I
who did it.
feel like a Coke. I feel like just sculling a can right now.
I always feel like a Coke, but I can't afford it because Harris lost.
I do like it, but I'm on the sugar-free, alas, and the sugar-free Coke is rubbish.
Oh, I like it. I think they've done a great job.
I don't like it so much. The Pepsi one's not bad.
Actually,
Pepsi
an
Max.
interesting thing, which I don't know about yet, but RFK Jr. probably buys into the aspartame conspiracy, which I got very much into in the later years of my high school life.
brother-in-law got in a little bit of this too.
I did an assignment on that in, I think, year 10 or 11, and basically, I was fully aspartame filled. And I wonder if artificial sweeteners will be on the chop. Anyway, we'll see. I think all this is really funny. So let's just get back to Bobby Jr. here. He speaks of the aggressive suppression of psychedelics.
Aggressive suppression.
Aggressive suppression. Look, don't forget sunshine. It's true, though. Psychedelic drugs are generally illegal in the USA, outside of a few slim exemptions. You see, ayahuasca, peyote, and psilocybin mushrooms are legal in some states for use in religious ceremonies, but it does remain illegal federally, just like marijuana. You can still get done by the feds.
A lot of particularly states like Colorado and Oregon, they're the two that I do know, they retail psilocybin mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, those sorts of things. You'll buy them in the place where you buy your weed.
Yeah, I bought my first ones at Camden Markets in London.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I think it's a very positive thing, to be honest, but that's just me. But look, just to give you an idea of how much this has been suppressed, aggressively suppressed.
I mean, this is the point you're trying to make. That Kennedy's making this argument that the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, is making various therapies that use MDMA or use psychedelic drugs are being suppressed.
Yeah,
and they can't bring their therapies to the people, which is a fucking nonsense. And you'll prove that, Joel.
It's not fucking true. I mean, in 2023, the US Government Accountability Office, which is something that I'm sure Elon Musk is about to just completely eliminate, suggested that the DEA improve their religious exemption process to expand the approved use of psilocybin mushrooms. And, I mean, this is the thing. Is RFK Jr. confusing the FDA with the DEA? Because I know he's an idiot. See, drugs are not aggressively suppressed. They're actually illegal under the Controlled Substances Act. So,
yes, it's very interesting how that all works. But yes, exactly right. So you've got this federal law. So while you've got the marijuana legalised in many, many states now, still technically it's illegal under the Federal Controlled Substances Act. It's just that the administrations of Obama, Trump, Biden, and, well, we'll see about Trump this time, haven't done anything about it.
Yeah, Harris said she was going to, but fucking who knows? You got to get it through the House and Senate.
Well, no, the act's in place, Joel. So all you need to do is say to the FBI, hey, let's have a look at all this dope retailing we're doing.
Yeah, no, like you need to change, you'd need to amend the act, or you'd need to pass a new act or something.
Well, as it stands, anyone involved in the money chain from the grower, and we're just talking about marijuana, from the grower to the retailer and the banking company that the retailer uses is potentially engaged in money laundering under the Controlled Substances
It's a fucking nightmare. And it's stupid.
The federal laws actually exist. They do need to be changed because the Canadians, well, in British Columbia, they have brought in a new, well, you call it almost legalising, certainly decriminalising relatively large forms of personal possession of heroin, cocaine, etc., Class A's, the Brits call them. And in order to do so, they needed an exemption from their own Federal Controlled Substances Act, and that had to go through the federal parliament under Trudeau. It's all happening now. So basically, British Columbia was just forced to deal with this because they had their courts and their prisons were absolutely choked with people doing, standing tall before a magistrate or a judge on nickel and dime possession.
Dumb as shit. I think Trump will pass a federal law on this, but we'll just see what the House and Senate think because Republicans aren't necessarily big drug friends.
No, but his instincts on this, were fairly obvious in 2016. I know a number of people in that sort of marijuana legalisation business, if you like, and they were a little bit worried, but in 2016, 2017. But no, Trump holds no, it's not something he's going to gun for.
No, but I think at this point they're going to finally get on with it because it'd be fucking stupid not to. Anyway, so look, it is true that the FDA has recently refused an application for MDMA to be used to assist therapy for people suffering post-traumatic stress disorder. But unlike this sort of tough rhetoric from RFK Jr. at the FDA aggressively suppressing blah, blah, the FDA actually rejected it after giving recommendations on how to improve their application so it could be approved in the future. But unfortunately, the company that made the application, called Lykos Therapeutics, sound like fucking idiots.
Yeah, the Australian context, and I've looked into this a little bit myself. We have, I think, 3 psychiatrists in Sydney and 2 in Melbourne. I'm not sure if there are any others around the country who are actively engaged in MDA and psilocybin treatments for resistant depression.
I mean, is it MDMA? Because MDA is a different drug.
MDMA, definitely MDMA.
MDA is the one you get on dodgy pills. Not like
right.
PMA, but like it's still shit pills.
I mean, the drugs are all administered under clinical conditions. Yeah. People are supervised and they go through a form of therapy around it. It's very expensive. It's about $25,000 for the MDMA.
You can get a cap for $30.
Yeah, I know. You'll find that the state will distribute for a lot dearer than that. The treatments have got a little bit of a rise, but a lot of psychiatrists won't engage in. There's quite a process that they have to go through in order to undertake these therapies and therefore take these drugs on into their clinics, and quite a lot of hoops that they have to go through from the Federal Department of Health.
Well, there's a reason why there's those hoops, because a lot of people doing this are fucking idiots. And that brings us back to Lykos, who ignored a suggestion from the FDA to use an active placebo, which would have been something like MDA or another similar psychoactive substance, which would ensure the results were not biased, because people easily knew whether they were on placebo or not.
Oh, you'd know within an hour, Joel.
Yeah, half an hour if you're on an empty stomach.
Yeah,
this is called functional unblinding. I had this recently in my clinical trial where they were saying, oh, but you might be on the placebo. Mate, I'm not on the placebo. I took it, I stopped being hungry, and it never came back. So fuck you. You know, right? So they didn't really bother to do any safety or addiction studies outside the basic assessment that improved outcomes in therapy. Like, the things that bureaucrats want to see. Is it safe? Are they going to get addicted? Are you going to sexually assault your... Anyway, we'll get to that. So the therapy itself, which Lykos is proposing, is also hippie bullshit, which is fucking
that
so
particular
annoying.
Therapy, yes.
Just what they're proposing. These are fucking
what
idiots.
they had proposed, yeah.
No, but this is just, their example. This is what an article said.
Yeah, this is from Vox. Yeah, Lycos
Vox, yeah.
favours certain therapy modalities that are less evidence-based and more of a new age flavour. Some
Right.
prominent critics have said Lycos's approach leads to foreseeable harms for patients to the point that they argue Lycos qualifies as a, and I quote, therapy cult.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Lycos' publicly accessible treatment manual, you'll see that one idea comes up again and again, that each person has, and I quote, inner healing intelligence, which is a person's innate capacity to heal the wounds of trauma. These therapies, Joel, are made available to people suffering PTSD or resistant depression. And resistant depression is one that is resistant to a raft of
depressants.
Psychotropics, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain in the fucking ass. The people end up getting electrocuted for it. So, look, this also includes allegations of sexual misconduct with the therapist's unlicensed husband just coming in and getting handsy with a patient when she was high, and an inappropriate and unethical sexual relationship with a study participant, which is number one of a clinical trial. Don't fuck the lab rats.
Yeah, don't do that.
No one tried to fuck me.
Especially when they're rhesus monkeys. Leave them on.
They bite. So there's no doubt in my mind that MDMA can facilitate incredibly effective therapy. I just think that these guys have got it all wrong, and that's really unfortunate. Like, shit, I actually know it does because, I've had that therapy with mates.
Yeah. Look, one of the flag bearers for this is a former trade minister in the Howard government, Andrew Robb. Andrew Robb had a well-known battle with depression that he wrote about, and finally going and getting some help, getting on psychotropic drugs. Life became better. And after a period of time, and this happens, I don't know how extensively, but this does happen, that the psychotropics just cease to work. And on particular patients. And Rob found this, and he underwent, I'm going to say, psilocybin treatments, and he walked away. He says, don't call it a treatment, it's a cure.
Wow. That's a strong fucking quote.
Don't call it a treatment, it's a cure.
If
it's not as
FDA
if
tells you to
walk
do
in
something,
there
just fucking
and
do
drop
it.
a couple of mushies and walk out again 2 hours later, you're okay.
No, of course.
My understanding is that there'll be perhaps 15 to 20 sessions using MDMA or psilocybin treatments. Anyway, the point you're making, Joel, is that RFK and his rather angry little boy tweet there is saying that the FDA is suppressing psychedelics and really, well, firstly, it's been legalised in a number of states, and secondly, the FDA has not been aggressively suppressing psychedelics. They're basically just putting some guardrails in place.
And also trying to help these people make a good application, which they flagrantly ignored because they're fucking lunatics. The next company will do it.
That
the next
does
company
sound
will
like
do
some
it.
hippie bullshit, doesn't it, really?
It just absolutely bullshit. And it's really unfortunate they wasted the time that the FDA allocated to this. But someone also come to it. It'll be fine. It's just another setback in what I think is a really noble pursuit. RFK Jr. might actually make this a change to the better, to be honest. And I fully embrace that. Totally, 100%. Just think that he's going to be a Lycos Pharmaceuticals guy and not a smart person. That's the problem.
If you get these things wrong, you'll do a great deal of harm. That's the
thing.
The thing about Bobby Kennedy is he doesn't have a DR in the front of his name. That's the thing
he's
that
also a
bothers
fucking
me.
idiot. So
But
there's
anyway, we can't just hang around talking about the drugs that Joel likes to take.
I could do that
because
for
we've got to
days.
deal with peptides.
Do we, though? Oh, I guess we do. I guess we do.
Bobby loves them. He loves them. He's just scoffing them down.
He actually probably does. Allegedly.
One
Look at
that
the
gives
guy.
him a boner. One that gives him one of those. Well, James Hurd, who was the Essendon coach, and I know you're going to reference the Essendon Bombers when we talk about peptides.
They're not being
James Hurd, in one of the investigations undertaken by the AF, had an erection that lasted for like 30, became very painful, and he had to be hospitalised.
Wonderful. And, of course, Jack, we both know the term for that. What is the term?
Yes, it's a priapism.
Yes.
Priapism.
Priapism. Very, very funny.
It is, yes. And it's no fun, I'm told.
No.
To have it might sound wonderful. I don't know how I've had an erection now for the last 36 hours. All you want to do is go to sleep, and you've got this massive bonus. Well, it actually becomes very painful after a while.
We have a friend that we've nicknamed the Minister for Priapism, which never gets old.
No, it doesn't, yeah. So, and a lot of people had to look up what priapism is, but
I did. That's how I found out.
Sustained erection, and not as nice as it might seem in a porn world. But
No. So, okay, off
let's get stuck into
onto
peptides, Joel.
So, look, this one's a bit vague, so we're going to try and, create it from a building block here. Peptides are most famous for their role in the Essendon Bombers drug scandal. I know you're all thinking that, and if you're
And
not,
elsewhere,
well, you're about
yes,
to.
yes.
Yeah, so instead of James Heard's dick, we'll move on to just the
Hawthorn,
general
Melbourne.
performance-enhancing side. They were given a banned substance, a peptide, to enhance their performance. Pretty standard. Not his dick. We're not talking about dicks anymore. I know. Hunter Biden, right? So I had to look it up myself. What are peptides? I know of peptides, but I didn't know the FDA had a war on them and the aggressive suppression
They're
of them.
aggressively suppressing them. They're so aggressive about it. They're actually suppressing all words beginning with P.
Not doing that thing with a boner where you push it down, but it won't go away. Anyway, you can explain without any reference to James Heard's cock what peptides are.
Peptides are strings of molecules called amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. Basically short proteins that are about 2 to 100 amino acids long.
Bit of a fucking broad stretch there.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's
Bit of a range.
Big range. Your body makes peptides that serve important functions in some of your body's most necessary processes. For instance, insulin is a 51 amino acid long peptide hormone that helps your cells take in sugars from your food to use for metabolism and store them in your liver. So you have a few problems if that 51 amino acid long peptide is not being secreted.
Yes, and you don't have the $35 a month to afford it after they're done with about $1,200 in the US. Anyway, so to give you an idea how broad peptides are, they can be used for skincare, hair growth. You can rub them into your head and apparently your hair grows back. I haven't tested that, as you can see.
Anti-aging, Joel?
Yeah, well, apparently. And one thing you can do with them is you can inject them into your belly with a pen to stop you getting hungry. Because, yes, Ozempic is a peptide.
Oh, is it? Is it really?
And the funny thing is, I don't think Ozempic is being aggressively suppressed, but apparently RFK Jr. isn't a fan.
Not a fan?
No, he thinks you should lose weight by clean eating.
He loves his Americans. Fat.
Oh, he's a fucking idiot. I mean, look, mate, I'm sorry, but unless you're going to give me an extra $100 a week in my grocery bill, I'm not going to eat the way you want me to. So, look, that's the situation we're looking at here. I think the only person who's going to really aggressively suppress peptides is him. But, you see, the problem with peptides is there's a lot out there, and some of them show great promise, and they are being suppressed by the FDA. You know what suppression is in his fucking mind? 50 studies.
Yeah.
That's suppression. So, there's about 100 peptides that have been approved by the FDA in recent history, which includes 31 100. Approved over the past 7 years. And these are, I've been a part of the clinical trial, rigorous safety studies, which cost a ton of money to conduct. I wasn't even in a safety study. I was in a follow-up dose investigation study. There are so many studies. The guys who were in the safety studies, they get paid a lot of money. I'm on the mailing list for that, and you get paid thousands of dollars, and they supervise you in hospital. After losing the Harris bet, I've thought about taking one, but it clashes my birthday party. So now, I don't want to be conspiratorial, but I will go out on a limb here and say that RFK Jr.'s idea of an aggressively suppressed peptide is very similar to the ones that found themselves at the bottoms of the Essendon players.
Yes, I think that's it. So
he loves a weight. He's never met one he didn't lift.
So if there's going to be this aggressive suppression of peptides is to end, it's not going to be good for American sport. I mean, baseball had its own drug scandals, the American pastime.
Classic steroids.
And they're just getting through it now. Oh, it's worse than that. There was a time there around the turn of the century where they say around about, well, they actually were outside of all the WADA codes, and then they came in, and then they had an amnesty in the first season. There was 75% of the people that they tested. They estimated 75% of all players in Major League Baseball were on the gear.
Yeah, great. Was it like a Barry Bonds or something, or who was the person?
Yeah, Barry Bonds always maintained that he wasn't, and everyone just goes, "Make sure you're hitting dingers every time you're at bat." And I think what was his name, Mark, the red-headed guy. He and Bonds was going home run for home run, and just obliterating records, and they were all beefed up.
Yeah,
they were both beefed up.
Yeah, exactly. So look, if you've seen RFK Jr.'s face, it looks like an aggressively dried prune. If you've seen him shirtless, he looks like a side of beef that you just sort of go, you know what? I'm not going to cook that. You have a smell and you think, oh, nah, not
He's
quite.
He's a little bit like Pete Evans, isn't he? I mean, these guys that they rabbit on about health, and you look at them and you go, mate, you don't look healthy at all.
No. Like, you look better than
You
RFK
look
Jr.
crook.
It's not good. It's not good, you know? So when it comes down to the RFK Jr. weirdness, he's never met a weight he didn't want to lift, and he's openly admitted himself to jabbing himself with anti-aging protocols.
There
Which,
you go. There's
to
your
be
peptides.
honest, I'm thinking there's some peptides in there. Who fucking knows what his anti-aging protocol is?
Oh, a lot of it is. A lot of it is. I mean, obviously, those people who go to the anti-aging clinics, they pay big money and they are using peptides. The other side of it is that, they're not elite sports people, so they don't get tested for it.
No, exactly. But they also should be getting monitored because if you look for things like peptides and a thing called SARMs in the bodybuilding community, you will find a treasure trove of experimental chemicals designed to make you gain muscle and cut weight. Now, do they work? I can kind of speak from experience. Yes. I mean, the peptides I took, a little bit more regulated, were pretty intense. Now, are they safe? Oh, maybe. Well, I mean, I don't know. Is that good enough for the FDA to approve them?
If you piss your pants and forget who you are when you walk past the microwave, Joel, you've taken too many.
No, that's the vax, mate. That's the vax. Oh, we're going to get banned off YouTube for saying that. Don't, Team YouTube, don't flag us. Anyway, look, this is the thing. Like, some of them might have horrific side effects, including this sort of anecdotal evidence of causing cancer, which I had to look at earlier. I don't want to go into much detail if there's no point. But this is the kind of thing. If he's going to make an open season for sketchy peptide because he's gone fucking wild on health, I mean, where's the fucking end to this?
Yeah, the powerlifting associations, I think there are 2 or 3 in Australia. They were notorious for being the only sport, essentially the only competitive sport in Australia that was outside the wider guidelines in terms of testing. So it just became rife. Steroids, peptides, whatever was going on. So you really were part of a cocktail of experimental drugs. I believe that at least the major powerlifting association in Australia has since walked all that back, and they have signed up to WADA.
Done some piss testing.
But powerlifting is considered to be the most dodgy sport around historically, anyway, in terms of drug abuse and performance-enhancing drug abuse.
I mean, we had a recent death of a fitness influencer at a very young age, and of course, all these cunts are saying they're vaccinated. But when it comes down to it, man, these sort of things, they're really experimental. And what I can say about peptides, the thing that
professional wrestlers,
peptide, serious business. I've never experienced anything like it. Cagracina,
you certainly do not want an unregulated approach to this. Going through the United States, it would be absolutely devastating, and not just in this generation, but potentially into future generations.
Oh, of course.
And this is the concern about the Essendon mob and why some of them did sue the club, because some wives were pregnant or became pregnant after the players were taking these peptides.
It could be the next thalidomide. We don't fucking know.
Yeah,
we just don't know. There's no testing on it.
And they had, of course, this maverick sort of pushing this drug to them. So you need a strong regulator.
Yeah, I don't do clinical trials that are safety. I do clinical trials that are past safety.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is Kennedy's pro-peptides, particularly around anti-aging stuff. Now, this stuff is around there. I don't know the reach of our own regulator here, the TRG.
TGA.
TGA. I'm sorry, TRG.
The Technical Response Group.
Technical Response Group. Yeah.
Look, there's an overlap on that, to be honest. There's dodgy semaglutide that they're doing that with. Yeah,
therapeutic goods administration. I don't know the extent of this. You see a lot of these anti-aging places spring up in sort of the wealthier suburbs of Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah.
And just how dangerous some of this stuff is, and just what's been put about. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
What you do need is a regulator that says, not these, not these, not these. These are tested, these are tested, these are tested. But Bobby Kennedy doesn't look like he's going down that pathway.
No,
so
I think it's going to be
fuck off the fluoride. You don't have to worry, and don't bite the tablets. Your teeth are too fucking weak for that. But just start sucking on peptides.
Jesus Christ!
In a completely unregulated environment. Anyway,
so let's move on because this is such a long tweet. This is why it's 2 parts. I just wrote 20 odd pages on it. So next up are stem cells, and I've got some bad news for Bobby. Oh, bro, the FDA aren't aggressively suppressing stem cell therapy. The Republicans are. That's who's suppressing stem cell therapy, because this is from the RNC platform, and I'm going to give that to you. Sucked in.
Oh, how very kind of you. the RNC platform is, we oppose embryonic stem cell research. We oppose the federal funding of embryonic stem cell research. We support adult stem cell research and urge the restoration of the National Placental Stem Cell Bank. We oppose federal funding for harvesting embryos.
Now, this was actually the platform.
That might have just come from the Vatican.
Yeah, I know. Well, the issue is that it sounds reasonable if you don't know a couple of small things. This was a platform in 2016 which led Trump in 2019 to ban the National Institutes of Health from conducting studies on fetal tissue. But the thing is, you can still use adult stem cells. That's what that's saying. It's saying, look, we're drawing a line.
Good.
They're shit. They're shit stem cells. Want a refund. The good ones are from fetuses. But the GOP and Trump don't want to go there because they're a bunch of pussies. So this was a subject of political ping pong where Barack Obama reversed a funding ban in 2009. He got in 2008. This was set in place by George W. Bush in 2001. He got in 2000. Well, yeah, inaugurated that, whatever. But this is the thing. Sorry, Bobby. You're in the anti-stem cell club now. You should have done some fucking research before posting that tweet because this is where you're at, bro.
And we have stem cell research in this country, Joel, and we have that because of a conscience motion put forward by Liberal Senator Kay Patterson. You might remember her. That was a really good thing she did. And she proposed a private member's bill, which Howard allowed to occur. It was in the Howard days. There was a little bit of concern that it might sort of unleash some of the anti-abortion type characters within the party, but Howard allowed the conscience vote to occur. In the second reading, members voted 82-62 to pass the bill in the House, and it's always been very interesting to see who from Labor voted against it. Yeah, Garrett, Tony Burke, who's both relatively new to Parliament, and Christina Keneally, albeit in the New South Wales Parliament, which was looking at bringing in their own legislation.
Well, she's Opus Dei style, like that's like
not really. No, she's religious. You would put her in progressive Catholic,
but she draws the line.
Area. Yeah, she was obviously very critical. In fact, around about that time when she was voting against this bill in the New South Wales Parliament, she was also paying out on Cardinal Pell, who was a very outspoken critic of stem cell research.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, the next one is one that I think we're all going to enjoy a lot, which is raw milk.
No child will ever be harmed by raw milk.
No, what could possibly go wrong?
Just whack them on a cow's tit. Just get them get sucking.
That's right. Resume.
To sum raw milk up, the risks outweigh the benefits. According to the clearly reliable Raw Milk Institute, I bet they've all got white coats, John, looking very important.
Yes,
there are beneficial enzymes, probiotics, bacteria and proteins in raw milk that are either destroyed or damaged through pasteurization. Damn you, Louis Pasteur, you bastard.
Look, I hate the French for other reasons.
They also claim that people with lactose intolerance often digest raw milk with no problems. Bullshit. And it apparently cures asthma as well.
Yeah, so they just threw that in the back.
Just suck on a cow's tit.
Yeah. There's lots of... They just make wild claims because you know what these fuckers are like. So look, on this point, the FDA said in a statement that there are no scientifically proven benefits to drinking raw milk and the risks are clear. Drinking raw milk became a bizarre fixation for right-wing influencers who tend to push back on regulations in order to seek attention and appear edgy. This is such a formula, you all fucking know it. During the hysteria around bird flu, and by hysteria, I mean the hysteria created by idiots on the right that no sane person actually noticed or cared about. People like Owen Schroyer from InfoWars squealed about raw milk, and he said...
They say bird flu in milk. Oh, it's the scariest thing. They'll just make raw milk illegal. That's what this is all about.
That's the aggressive suppression. Suppression.
There you go, as an aggressive suppression there.
Aggressive suppression.
Look, man, milk comes from cows, though, John, not birds.
Well,
what are we, milking emus now?
Well, maybe. I don't actually know how the fuck that works. I will be honest, but what they do is they test it, and we'll go into this in detail. But, I mean, essentially, they have found flu in cow's milk. And the thing with that cow's milk is that it tends to get boiled, so bird flu dies.
Pasteurization.
That's pasteurization. So, like I say, they did find the H5N1 in cow's milk in Texas.
Okay.
Several cats on a dairy farm died after drinking raw milk with a virus in it. I didn't know how that was. I didn't think cats could get it. It's
Damn it.
fucked
And
up.
they come for the cats, man. And RFK's coming for the cats.
Oh, they better not eat
That's
them.
it. That's a line in
actually
the sand right there.
You know he would eat them. He's a
He
fucking
would
weird
eat a
person.
cat. He would definitely eat a cat.
The thing about this milk, though, is it wasn't actually set to be sold raw. This milk was due to be pasteurized, but they tested it anyway as a result of the fact that the cats died. There wasn't really going to be an issue. But the thing is if RFK Jr. has his way, we're going to wind up like the fucking cats. We're going to die.
We wouldn't be licking from a bowl. We'd probably just be, using a glass. But other than that, yeah. So I take your point.
How do you have sex? Oh, sorry. Never mind. So, of course, this mutated into this sort of TikTok trend, which saw 2 million views on the hashtag raw milk, including videos that advised, pregnant women to drink raw milk.
Please don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Like, even perpetually online ads should know better to encourage pregnant women to drink raw milk.
This is real Pete Evans stuff, isn't it? This is all real Pete Evans stuff.
Oh, it's very craggy face stuff. But they're birds of a feather, right? So now conspiracy theorists are trying to get bird flu to own the libs. And, speaking of conspiracy theorists, famous idiot and conspiracy theorist and fucking congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene posted a photo on Twitter that said this.
Raw milk does a body good. Make America healthy again, ma. And then the photo is of an unlabelled bottle of milk.
Yeah,
just in case you didn't know. That's that white stuff, not semen.
Just a raw bottle thing. So the next bit is based on a New York Times article, which is basically, it's paraphrased, but I've ripped most of this from the New York Times article. Despite the claim of aggressive suppression of raw milk by the FDA, they aren't in charge of it at all. The states are. And as you can imagine, a whole bunch of idiot red states like Iowa, Montana, North Dakota, Alaska, Georgia, and Wyoming have legalized raw milk sales. Bet you didn't see that fucking coming. So milk from a creatively titled company, Raw Farm, saw a salmonella outbreak that made 171 people sick, including 22 hospitalizations from September 2023. And that's not it. But this is the thing. People are going to hospital to A, own the libs, and B, drink expensive raw milk because it has enzymes. Like, what fucking enzymes? Shut up, idiots. So the number of actual illnesses are likely to be higher due to the fact that there is a reluctance to go to hospital in the US because it costs money.
Yeah.
So just to make this even more fucked in the head, the Party of Protecting Children, nearly 40% of those infected in this outbreak were younger than 5.
Kids who drink milk. Yeah. It's now a good time to remind our listeners of the absolutely astonishing statistic the US is generally considered the wealthiest nation on earth. It's 50 of 210 nations in terms of life expectancy. There are 54 other countries before it in terms of life expectancy. And I'll go out on a limb and say if Bobby Kennedy is going to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services for longer than a year, I reckon they'll hit the 60s.
I reckon they're going to slip. I reckon they're going to slip because raw milk is going to become – just imagine if they don't have to label it. Just imagine that. I can't even start. Anyway, so Raw Farm have been involved in other outbreaks. I'm going to list them out. Here's an E. coli outbreak, which saw 11 cases, 5 hospitalizations from raw cheddar cheese in February 2024. A salmonella outbreak in the same product in March 2024.
Kills people.
Camphor back in May 2023 from the raw milk product. Now, that's just Raw Farm, but Raw Farm wasn't always Raw Farm. Raw Farm was Organic Pastures Dairy Company. This farm was implicated in E. coli outbreaks that occurred in 2016, 2011, and 2006, as well as multiple recalls when Salmonella, Campylobacter, and Listeria have been found in their products. All very vulnerable to boiling. That's the pasteurization thing.
That's going to give you the shits.
Yeah. Now,
and then you'll die.
When it comes to war on children, I can't think of a better fucking battalion leader than this fucking idiot because just as one example, in 2006, then 7-year-old Christopher Martin was infected with a dangerous strain of E. coli from raw milk from Organic Pastures. He developed uremic syndrome, which sounds very bad, which is described as a severe condition that affects the kidneys and was hospitalized for fits.
Wow.
Mary McGonigal Martin, his mother, said, I quote, I made a choice that almost killed my child. So now I want you to read how the reaction was
Mark McAfee. There's a famous name, Joel. Any relation?
No, I don't think so. But fuck, I love
Mark McAfee, the founder and chief executive of Raw Farms, said in an email that the company has, and I quote, had very few illnesses in the last 25 years. You know,
Oh, good.
in relative terms.
Chrissy Martin's no
Pathogens
problem.
are entirely natural, he
Good.
said, adding that our consumers are seeking to rebuild that relationship with the farm and the bugs that naturally live there. Oh, dear.
Fucking
He also
dickheads.
said that the company's products are labelled with warnings that they may contain disease-causing microbes as required by state law. What do you reckon the font size would be on that warning, Joel?
Honestly, so fucking
I
embarrassing.
mean, it should be skull and fucking crossbones, right? It should be labelled in fucking 20-point font on the label, but no, may disease cause.
With RFK Jr., it's not going to be an issue. They're just not. It's not going to be a fucking issue.
This is the pathway past this form of very mild regulation that exists in some of these states.
Yeah, it's not cool. So apparently, these people need less regulation.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the thing. Like, we're all sitting here after the election results saying, you know what? Fuck these people. They get what they deserve, right? You can't say that when a good chunk of these people are under 5 years old. They didn't vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Some of them can't form a sentence. And it's a matter of time before one of these people, I'm not a big kill in the future, they're all fucking innocent, but one of them's going to die and it's not their fault. Just because their mum's fucking stupid. Honestly, my mum would have fed me warm milk given the fucking chance.
More than one. I mean, we're not going to deal with the vaccines at the moment, but drink your raw milk instead of your polio vaccine. Give me a break.
Fucking
There
painful.
were actually a number of cases of polio in the United States last year. There are a very small number from year to year.
Great. That's going to get better.
So it's not far away. You know, it's never far away.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway. So look, in another example, here is proof that RFK Jr. thinks that everyone is A, rich, and B, swimming in spare time. And he also has no fucking idea what he's on about. Outside of course, a bizarre confected victim complex, because he thinks that hyperbaric therapies are being aggressively suppressed.
Aggressively suppressed. Hyperbaric therapies are not aggressively suppressed by the FDA at all. He is an idiot. They are completely legal. That being said, the FDA says on their website, if you are considering the use of a HBOT device for yourself or a loved one, be aware that some claims of what it can do are, for example, HBOT devices are not proven to cure cancer. Oh, it's funny about that. Lyme disease, autism, or Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
So hyperbaric therapies, Joel, explain it. A lot of our elite sports people use them on a regular basis, particularly around when they have soft tissue injuries and want to speed up the recovery process.
Bunch of oxygen.
Yeah,
basically.
Right.
Bit of pressure.
You're going into a chamber. Hyperbaric, I think, chambers first were created around people who suffered the bends from diving.
That's right. That is. They still use it for that.
And now basically people can go to these places where they have high levels of oxygen. And well, I don't think there's any real issues around using them. If you've got an expectation and if you've got a bit of Spanish dancer and you pop into the hyperbaric chamber for a couple of weeks, don't expect that cancer's going to go anywhere.
No.
So, it might be very good for a soft tissue injury if you're an elite sports person who's got to make the grade for selection on Thursday night or
tons
miss
of
out.
research behind that. Yeah. Or there's a whole list of things that are very well researched. They're not being suppressed. Not being suppressed in the US, not being suppressed here, not being suppressed fucking anywhere. The only suppression is the fact that Kennedy won't be able to understand this because he doesn't understand the concept of basic working class poverty. But some people can't afford to just hang out in fucking beauty salons and get a bit of fucking oxygen up them.
have a few peptides and spend a couple of hours in the hyperbaric chamber before you wander back to the office and start spilling your guts about vaccines.
It's not a problem. Just put on your credit card.
That's what Bobby Jr. does. That's his working day. And then pop outside for a bit of falconing around lunchtime.
Just put it on your family credit card. The money just vanishes. It's fine. It's great. It's no problem. Fuck me. So look, in Australia, you are so suppressed. You can seek hyperbaric therapy in the public system with Medicare subsidies. That's how suppressed this is. there is a $290.25 fee with a 75% benefit, so you get $246.75 back. That's the suppression we're looking at here. Now, of course, over in free market freedom land, it's not quite as simple as that. You have to have insurance and blah, blah. But generally speaking, you have to pay for it yourself. But as a part of the FDA's suppression of the therapy, only on-label conditions are covered by health insurance, and there's a fuckload of them. It's a whole list. Off-label uses like, I don't know, autism, Lyme disease, Alzheimer's, and curing cancer, you fucking idiots, mean all you have to do is pay in cash. They're not paying suppressed. It just means you pay in cash, which is a concept that, Kennedy's quite aware of because he doesn't pour out money.
So it's fine. What he's trying to do is bring hyperbaric chambers to the working classes, Joel.
Yeah, unfortunately, Elon's going to cut that in the Department of Government Efficiency.
This is so nutty.
It's fucking silly. So look, if your woo-woo health guru is trying to tell you this is going to cure cancer, then you've got to pony up the money to, slowly kill yourself. That's just you. But in the US, treatments range between $250 and $600 according to the sort of hyperbaric medical solutions website that I looked up. But I did find a place in Minnesota that will do an hour for $125. So shop around. Otherwise, you'll get suppressed. Now, the fact that RFK Jr. thinks that this legal treatment covered by health insurance is somehow being aggressively suppressed by the FDA is proof that this man is an actual idiot and should not be trusted with anything. Not only that, but a paranoid who really does tend to speak before thinking. I just think that the issue here is victimhood is so fashionable on the conservative
this is the
politics.
sort of nonsense that he's been speaking in for a very long time.
You've got to feel like a victim. You've got to feel like you're being targeted.
Yeah, that's right. You are the victim of this terrible deep state that is suppressing all these things that can make you healthy. Otherwise, you'd be fat. You'd just be happily fat and gnawing on a bucket of chicken.
Yeah, like Trump. That's
probably why. I don't want to give away any spoilers, folks, but that's probably why RFK's not going to last in the administration. You come in there and just come into the Oval Office and the Trumps is just gnawing on a KFC drumstick. And put that down. That's illegal. We're going to make those illegal now, Mr. President.
Drop and give me 20. He can't
Get this fuck out of my office.
Exactly.
It's just be throwing him into the bins. But yeah, next on the RFK Jr. suppression list is chelating compounds. Now, I do know what chelating compounds are, Joel, because we did chelating compounds in one of our episodes many, many moons ago. I'd never heard of them before that. But chelating compounds are chemical compounds much loved by New Age health idiots.
They are. Now,
and Bobby loves them. He's a huge fan.
Well,
he's been chelated extensively.
Oh, I can only imagine how much chelation he's done. Very expensive piss, this man. You could bottle it and sell it for a fortune. So chelation is meant to remove heavy metals from the body. And I can say this because I used to take supplements like Zeolite to do this. Of course, I turned out fine.
Weirdo.
Well, look, it must have worked. Look at me now. I'm a podcaster.
You're metal free.
Yeah, well, I haven't stuck it to myself recently. So as far as I can see, Zeolite is fairly harmless in liquid form, which checks out because it's always in a dropper. That's how you get it. You drop it into some water and you drink it like that, like sort of tinctured.
Right.
Breathing it in is apparently harmful and can lead to cancer. So,
hold your nose when you drink it.
Don't freebase your Zeolite. But generally speaking, it's got no science to back up the claims it makes. As far as I could find, the usual shit about curing cancer, autism, even herpes.
Herpes? Handy.
Get on the Zeolite, no problem, mate. So as usual, a lot of these supplements are made by idiots in unregulated therapy facilities, which lead to, things like the Vulcanson. This is a Zeolite product marketed in Europe, ironically being found to contain high levels of heavy metals, including arsenic.
But they're getting rid of all the heavy metals in your body by bringing in more heavy metals. Have I got this right?
That's the plan. It should cancel itself out, but you'll find out after a blood test and extensive medical treatment. There was not only just arsenic, but lead, mercury, cadmium, nickel, copper, and chromium.
Mercury's great for you. Yeah, mercury's great for you. And let me tell you, because if it's a really hot day, you'll just stand up straight.
Good.
Mercury is a killer. You cannot have it. Well, this is one of the things that Bobby Kennedy babbles about with vaccines, by the way. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, go.
But about the existence of ethyl mercury, which is used in a lot of vaccines at a very, very, very low dose.
Yeah.
And he babbles about, you've got kids there that have got high levels of ethyl mercury in their systems. They're actually they will develop an amount of ethyl mercury just from breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And it's healthy and sustainable, and there's no real problem around it, and there's no problem around it at all. But whenever he's told this, he actually says that there's he's created his own safe level for ethyl mercury in the body, and that safe level is lower than what is found in babies who are breastfeeding and who have not received vaccines. Obviously, too young for vaccines.
It's ridiculous, and also like one of the arguments around that is that when you like ingest mercury, if you do it through an injection, then it passes the blood-brain barrier. Whereas if you ingest it otherwise, it doesn't, and that's the differentiation.
If you have a lot of it, you're brown bread. See you later.
But it's that stupid thing of just like making these ridiculous delineations, which actually don't make any sense. But like the one thing that he said recently was that and this is the quote, "I spent 30 years trying to get mercury out of the fish in this country, and no one ever called me anti-fish." How are you going to get the mercury?
I'll call him anti-fish. I think he is anti-fish.
Well, I do think he is, but like, how is mercury in fish anyway? Like, I think it's just from like nature. So like, how's he going to remove mercury from fish? Like he said, he's going to spend 30 years removing mercury from fish, but I think that's from like the plankton and shit that they eat.
I've had just about enough of this man's anti-fish fucking rhetoric.
The fuck is he talking about? So look, that's what we're dealing with here, guys, and it's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah,
anyway,
it is.
So
it is
look,
just embarrassing.
The FDA, of course, has not banned chelating compounds or aggressively suppressed them. There are chelating agents available with a prescription because they actually require like medical supervision, and those are the ones that are tested to work.
Sure.
You know, you go to the doctor and you say, "Oh, check my blood." They go, "Holy fuck, are you working in a mine? You're full of mercury, you cooked idiot. Here, I'm going to write your script."
Have you been eating thermometers again?
Yes, exactly. Sucking them down, standing up straight. It's just fucking insane. But the thing is that like these are the ones that work. If you're looking for some aggressively suppressed expensive piss, you could go on iHerb. They sell several chelators. One of them had 30 milliliters of zeolite in a dropper for a casual $102.62, which of course isn't suppression. It's just expensive and ineffective.
But look, it's not expensive for the sellers because they're making a good margin.
No, they are making a very good margin.
They're making a big margin on that lot.
They might be bulking it up with mercury though, so I'm just not sure.
You gotta. Look, that's the way. It's kind of like magnets, I suppose. It's just to send the body a lot of metals to remove the metals that are already there.
It's incredibly fucking unregulated.
Somehow.
It's so unregulated. Anyway, he's going to remove mercury from fish because he's an idiot. I can't even start with this guy. So look, I'm going to rush past this one because we are getting to more of the funny bits, and this is kind of boring. He cracks out the ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and to me, this is the most non-event part of that tweet. I don't really care about this one because I want the stuff that's coming after. It's funnier. You know what this is. You know what he means. You know why the FDA.
It's a dog whistle, isn't it?
It is. It's dog whistle. It's the horse pace thing. It has legitimate uses.
Hello, anti-vaxxers. Hello, I'm talking to you.
Yeah. It's like the dumbest fucking thing ever. You know the FDA are not preventing people from using those two substances for their fucking purpose. They're just not. Anyway, next. Don't care. Don't care about hydroxychloroquine. We've talked about that.
We're moving right on. So it's also vitamins. The FDA is aggressively suppressing vitamins.
They're not.
I always like when people say vitamins instead of vitamins.
Like Yanks. Yeah, I do.
Vitamins.
Actually, it's more of an English thing, I think, actually, vitamins.
Oh, I think it was, it's just an old worldy thing for me.
You know,
we used to hear old ladies talk about, you're going to eat that because you get your vitamins.
Get your vitamins. Well, you know what? We're all getting fucking vitamins. Nobody's suppressing fucking vitamins, but they are technically referred to as dietary supplements. So don't expect your vitamins to be suppressed, but also your dietary supplements aren't either. And this is the fucking craziest thing. If you look into this even vaguely, you can basically say whatever the fuck you want about vitamins and get away with it.
In the States
in the
you
US.
can. And it probably talks about the reach of the FDA and the CDC compared to the TGA here. Because if you start knocking out supplements, hello Pete, saying they can cure COVID, for example, or indeed cure cancer, blah 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 blah.
You get a visit.
You will receive a fairly heavy. Well, it'll be a really nasty letter that you receive first, and then if you ignore all of that, look out, the big fines are coming.
Yeah.
But
Good.
dietary is a billion-dollar industry in the US, and the FDA is not only unable to keep up, but are limited by statute to properly regulate these products.
Mhm.
Supplements are not allowed to be marketed to claim that they treat or prevent disease, but they can make wild claims about how they will affect the structure or function of the body without any evidence required to substantiate said claims. Even when faced with illegal marketing claims like the wild shit these idiots come up with during the pandemic, which we just talked about, the FDA does not have the resources to prosecute.
Yeah, that's where the letter comes in. You get a letter, and
So
that's about
TGA a
fucking
bit
it. You just
different.
keep
We're a
on
bit
selling your
different.
nonsense.
We've got a probably slightly better setup here.
It is. It's still not perfect, but it's so much fucking better. I tell you what it isn't, though. It's not fucking suppressed.
No, it's definitely not.
It's a $40 billion industry.
Violently or otherwise. What about clean foods? What the fuck is clean? What the fuck clean foods, Joel?
Well, that's a problem. I have this is so fucking vague. I need to look at these words and try and interpret them. Because see, RFK Jr. has processed food in his crosshairs, which I don't think we're all disagreeing with. But the issue is, and as we've said before on this one, who the fuck is going to pay for this? Who's paying for it?
We're going to stratify. There'll be, and let's again mention that the POTUS, number 47 to be, loves a bit of KFC, loves a bit of Macca's. He basically just lives on processed foods. In fact, that is one of the staggering things about Trump. You look at him and go, why are you still alive?
Why are you still alive? I know, right?
You're a role model in many respects. In that respect, for me and my, if I don't have KFC at least once every week, I get hankerings for it.
Wow. You and 47 have got real similarities there.
So into this, he's bringing in what is called clean foods, which is, again, he's running sort of policy. Well, it's not quite policy, not black letter policy, but he's running policy like some fucking health store from fucking Santa Monica.
From Barrel. Yes.
Yeah,
really
Barrel
really
too.
is.
Yes.
It really is.
Anyway, so clean foods, which most Americans won't be able to afford or want.
No, mostly the first, but the second part definitely. Once Trump realizes that his fucking KFC will taste different when he removes the seed oil from the thing, I tell you what, it's on for young and fucking old.
Have they taken away some of the, 11 secret herbs and spices? Something's wrong here. And then when someone explains to the POTUS, to the Trumpster, that it's largely due to the intervention of his Secretary for Health and Human Services,
it'll be over.
He's going to kick his ass straight out of the fucking White House.
It'll be fucking over. He won't kick his ass. He'll get Stephen Miller to deport him. So in yet another example of him lying through stupidity, he recently claimed in an interview on MSNBC that Fruit Loops in the USA have 18 or 19 ingredients, while in Canada they only have 2 or 3. That's thinking on the fly, which I guess I can respect. American Fruit Loops have 16 ingredients, whereas Canadian ones actually have 17. So
not 2 or 3.
Off by a couple. Actually, he's off by a similar margin that I had Florida. So that's fun. So what he's trying to say, though, through his own stupidity, is that American foods have dodgy shit in them. And it's not wrong. Fuck, they do. Canadian authorities limit the use of certain food dyes and Americans don't.
Yeah,
one of
we've got
those
a problem
additives,
with them here.
this is a reasonably famous one in the sort of the woo science place, is red dye 40.
Yeah.
It's made from fucking petrol. It's linked to allergies, migraines, mental disorders in children, namely ADHD. I mean, children who eat Fruit Loops in the morning are unable to focus in class, and that's a problem. Who the fuck sells this stuff with a straight face? They say that the dosage is too small, and I get it. But the thing is that these are children, and you're selling them poison just to make it look more red. You're evil. Stop that. And it says that most kids aren't sensitive enough to the dye to react. You know what? Some of them are. That's enough for me. That's enough of a bar for me to just not have strong red dye made from petrol.
Yeah, it's. I know a number of parents whose children develop these allergies to red dye 40.
Cordial was the whole joke back in the day.
Yeah, right. The old, red lemonade or the old drink, the jokes. Yeah. And they would have been full of red dye 40, presumably.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, children who will have no other allergies will either develop or show signs of developing an allergic reaction to red dye 40. it'd be a good idea to remove it. I looked at the Choice Awards, with Choice being the consumer
advocacy group.
consumer advocacy and education. They have a subscriber based website, and you can check all products and foods and things like that, and they give good ratings on things. It's good if you're going to go and buy stuff, and I think it's about $10 a month. Anyway, Choice just named one of their worst, and it was the Daily Juice Company who are knocking out green juice. And it's I think it's only orange and a bit of apple and things like that. The only reason it's green is to appear healthy.
Yep, they coloured it.
And they just put a colour in. That's all.
Amazing.
There's nothing else done to it other than that. I went looking for it in the supermarket today. I was almost going to take a photo of it because it is a piece of fucking rubbish. But they, for some reason, they're not stocking it in my supermarket. I'm not saying it's not available on the shelves, but that's tapping into this sort of wheatgrass type juice thing that people sometimes do for odd reasons. And
just
say,
bullshit.
well, we'll just give them orange juice and we'll just make it green.
Just put green in it. Yeah. I tell you what, there'll be some cookers who have that in their fridge right now, and possibly some of our listeners, and we love you, despite your gullibility. So, evil Democrat Gavin Newsom has beaten Bobby to the punch here, though, with California banning the controversial food dyes in public schools, although not entirely. In public schools, a ban on these sort of pointless food dyes would be a positive move. I don't think it's going to happen, though, because what's going to happen is you're going to have General Mills or Kellogg's or whoever's involved in this getting a call to Trump and saying,
gigantic food corporation. Yeah.
We give you money. This is bad. Stop it.
We've got barrels of food of red food dye around here, and red dye 40, and we're using it.
Yeah. It's
Chick-fil-A, the billionaire boss of Chick-fil-A. He's another Trump supporter. He'd be he'd be on the phone fairly smartly.
Oh, man.
First off, tell your health man, keep the Falcons out of my fucking shops.
Yes.
And secondly, what the fuck? What the fuck? Taste the chicken, Donald. Is it good or bad? It's good. Well, then just get rid of that man. I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, this is the thing. So, right, he's made it very clear that he's planning to remove seed oils from food production and also pesticides, right? Yeah. So farmers without pesticides are
this is the big thing, yeah.
But also, seed oils, as you've been saying with the KFC, the Chick-fil-A, all those sort of things, neutral flavoured cheap oil makes America function. It doesn't function well. And to be honest, I actually agree with RFK Jr. that we should remove it, but it's not realistic because the oils are cheap and the oils are neutral. You're going to have expensive.
This is the whole
flavor-altering oils.
So while we're talking specifically about seed oils, and we'll move on to pesticides in a minute, this is where he will come a cropper, because he will come up against the farm industry.
Yes, he will.
Canola and the farm industry will say, stop this fucking man. Get rid of this fucking clown right now.
Call it a day.
And there will be no choice, because he will, with this sort of nonsense, he will reduce crop yields in certain, things like barley, corn, etc. He will reduce crop yields by taking out pesticides, by taking out organic fertilizers, which is another thing that he's sort of sniffing around. And then when you do look at things like seed oils, well, you could use extra virgin olive oil if you wanted to, but it's a shitload more expensive.
And it has flavour influences. People don't want to taste olive oil in their fucking fried chicken. Trust me, you want the stuff that tastes like nothing. And
seeds also have a lower burn temperature, I think is what...
I think higher burn temperature.
Higher, that's right. Yeah, that's what I was getting confused about. Yeah,
which is a massive industrial advantage.
Yeah, that's right.
It's ridiculous. So here's the quote that he said on the Zoom call with his supporters.
We've got to get off of?
I know, it's a...
You fucking yank idiot. We've got to get off of seed oils, and we've got to get off of pesticides, and we need to make that transition to regenerative agriculture.
Fuck me.
Hey, Bobby Jr., come meet the farm lobby.
Oh, man. And they all voted for Trump, these fucking morons. The leopards are eating faces.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of people with a bit of buyer's remorse.
Oh, there already are, but they haven't even fucking started. Anyway, so look, Of course, the last Trump administration removed restrictions on chemicals and pesticides like it was a sport, including the ones who have clear evidence of harm, not just the hippy-dippy bullshit that RFK Jr. is whinging about, because lobbyists were nice to him and said he had a great dig. So anyone who resisted the move to basically just make anything legal in the agricultural lobby were assigned to new roles in the EPA, promoted out, and replaced with lackeys.
That's where you do not want to be in the Trump administration, anywhere near the EPA.
Oh, my God. Well, you're all going to get fired. But the thing there's a lot of contrasting opinions here. So RFK Jr. does have reasons for his plan. Now, this is one of my favourite parts here. And I will say that these are a real reflection of what a person we're dealing with. They're personal issues here. You see, he's going to get the chemicals out. And this is what he said.
It's easy to fix. We have 1,000 ingredients in our foods that are illegal in Italy and other countries in Europe. And I get where you're coming from, Joel. If only Americans would move to Italy, use extra virgin olive oil, or breads, basil, green things, pizza.
I fully endorse this.
Everything will be fine. If you can afford a quick trip to Italy.
It's the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, and jump on a Mediterranean diet.
They last forever.
Laughing, just like RFK. Apparently, well, we'll get to this in a moment. We go
I'll
on.
tell you, he's not a fucking Mediterranean diet. He's fucking boss. Anyway, so look, this may be true, but beer makes you burp. This is crazy. So now this may be true, but let's have a further look at the basis for his claims because I want some evidence. So let's go with some real hard, cold statistics and evidence and facts, and I want you to read this out because this is fucking hilarious.
Kennedy has described the food in the US as, and I quote, just poison.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. Poison.
Just poison.
Citing his own anecdotal experience with his son struggling with eczema while eating pasta in the US. I'm sorry. It's just really poorly punctuated, that sentence. So who was struggling with eczema, Kennedy or the son? And was it because he had an outbreak after eating pasta? Anyway, he goes on to explain, and I quote, this is Bobby Kennedy Jr. When he ate any kind of pasta in this country, he would get these terrible, terrible outbreaks, really agonizing. Oh, God. And he moved to Italy and he lived lived off of pasta for a year and a half and he never got a case. That's medical research right there.
Medical research
That's
right
what he
there.
said. That's what Bobby said on the 19th of September. Kennedy suspects that was caused by glyphosate. Glyphosate. I use it. Used in Roundup brand weed killers. I use it in the yard, which Italy moved to start restricting in 2016. Italy's decision was over worries that it could pose a cancer risk, and some advocacy groups in the US have also voiced similar concerns. Glyphosate.
Partially due to RFK Jr.
That's why I've got cancer, Joel. Who can I sue? Can I sue Monsanto?
Well, you'd be a bit too late because RFK Jr. has already done that on behalf of someone who worked with glyphosate.
I know the case. I know the case.
Yeah, I didn't put that in there. But you see, this is the thing. So Kennedy Jr. has had issues with wheat allergies in the US he didn't have in Italy. So it must be the glyphosate. What could it be? What else could it be?
Well, if some of his predecessors are anything to go by, he's probably allergic to bullets as well.
Yes, let's find out. Look, I'm going to talk pasta here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Let's talk pasta.
I'm about to talk pasta shop. So let's just say that RFK Jr. is a fucking idiot and his conclusion is stupid, and let's work our way backwards from there because that's a safe place to work from.
I can handle those assumptions, yes.
Good. You'll need to. This episode relies on that. So for starters, Italian pasta is made from durum wheat exclusively, otherwise known as semolina. US-made pasta can contain a blend of wheat types. Now, this does matter because different wheat types have different amounts of proteins in them, different kinds of proteins, blah, blah, blah. But the US law also requires, this is very World War II shit, enrichment of flour with vitamins and minerals. So American pasta then also has additives including preservatives that are not used in Italian pasta, such as potassium bromate, sorbic acid, and benzoate. Now, sorbic acid and benzoate can cause skin irritation. Hilariously enough, I believe that benzoates can be in skin creams, but you shouldn't fucking eat them. Italian pasta is also processed differently. It's dried slower. This apparently changes the protein content. You have no idea how long this one part took me to research. It's totally fucked in the head. But at the same time, you'd think that he would have done the same thing before starting a fucking policy platform. the varieties of wheat used in America and Australia have a higher protein content. That higher protein content can trigger a wheat allergy because that protein is often gluten.
Interesting.
This can produce atopic dermatitis, which is otherwise known as fucking eczema. But no, bro, it's got to be the
Not
pesticide.
eczema.
It's got to be the pesticide. Well, eczema.
And we ought to know all this because, of course, Eric Trump, his entire body is just covered with scales, eczema scales.
He just needs to move to Italy, bro. He'll be fine.
That's the answer. This is very interesting.
That is the answer.
But Bobby's not even looking at that. He's just gone straight to the roundup.
Of course, it's got to be that because it's what he wants it to be. He's got to, and look, he's got a fucking bone to pick, and that's fine. We'll get to that later. But like, fuck me, like, you're just so fucking dumb. It just, I googled it. It can be just.
Yeah, it's a 2-minute thing. And I spent some time looking at the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC,
while it still exists, mind you,
which classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. It's Group 2A. So it's a Group 2A classified carcinogen is glyphosate. And that means under that category, there is limited evidence of causation of cancer in humans. There is limited evidence of cancer in humans from real-world exposure. There is sufficient evidence in animals. There is sufficient evidence of cancer in experimental animals from studies of pure glyphosate. And there is strong evidence of genotoxicity. There is a strong evidence of genotoxicity for both pure glyphosate and for glyphosate. Very, very widely used pesticide in farming. You'll find it. Anyone who likes to remove weeds from their home sprays it around a little bit. Pop on a mask, pop on some gloves, you'll be good to go.
That sounds a bit concerning.
But it is 2A. And the case you were talking about, I don't know whether Bobby was in there, but there was a fellow who did sue Monsanto. Now, he was a farm worker. Exactly. And he was literally in contact with glyphosate.
Bathing in it.
Day in, day out.
Yeah.
And he was literally on the verge of death before the judgment was handed down. He had multiple tumours, multiple cancers, and he received a rather large sum of money. But that's because he was in constant contact with glyphosate. It is a Group 2A cancer. Guess what else is? Red meat, especially when overcooked. Talcum powder. Talcum powder is a graded 2A carcinogen. And I'm pretty sure I can go and buy some. I don't think we use it on babies. Don't use it with babies these days. I think everyone uses creams and things like that.
Political correctness.
But I used to be just, no wonder I got cancer. I used glyphosate. I was sprinkled with talcum powder as a kid, and I haven't eaten a vegetable in 30 years.
Yeah.
So, it's someone else's fault. Anyway.
I reckon you're going to say
working night shift is a carcinogen, Joel.
God.
Is a grade 2A carcinogen.
Really? Fuck me.
A hot cup of coffee is a Group 2A. Not so much the coffee, but the temperature of the fluid. Hot liquids are level or graded 2A carcinogens.
Jesus.
And by the way, coal is a grade 1 carcinogen.
Oh, so Matt Canavan is fucked.
Well, with a bit of luck, Scott Morrison got the Spanish because he was fondling a piece in the Parliament rather famously.
He does love a coal fondle. So, Monsanto is, of course, a big agriculture company. Totally fucking evil. They're not my friends. They are. They're cunts. They're terminated gene in their fucking GM products just so they have to buy more seeds. They can eat shit. And then when the fucking pollens blow down to other farms and they cross-pollinate, they fucking sue other farmers because they found their fucking IP.
I don't like that.
Fuck off. I don't get cunted.
Anyway, Bobby Kennedy is what we're talking about here, not your...
Well, of course. But when it comes down to it, this is the guys...
corporate America.
But we're not here to fucking cheerlead for Monsanto. But, I mean, we've got to be fucking realistic here. I mean, when it comes down to it, if you're going to rule that glyphosate is a carcinogen, cool, no worries. But if you're going to make the conclusion that glyphosate is the reason why allergic reactions are happening in poisonous food because your son got allergic because he went to Italy once. I'm sorry.
It's a bit skinny.
It
is a little bit skinny.
I am out. I think that Monsanto are cunts. Anything you want to do to make them have a harder time of day, I don't really give a shit. But if you're going to base your policy on Space Cadet bullshit, no. I'm sorry. I'm out. You're not making America healthy again. You're just a fucking weirdo with a dumb, cunty theory. Not interested. So anyway, look, just to put a bit of a dent in here to ruin this entire thing, a shitload of the pasta made in Italy uses US and Canadian grown wheat, which obviously brings with it all the glyphosate in the world, also with the other versions. So it's probably preservatives used in production, if I'm going to use deduction on that, because they do still use the traditional methods of pure wheat with slower drying. But Jesus fucking Christ, Bobby, I did this Googling. Like, it did take me a few moments to really make sure I knew what I was talking about here, but this is your agricultural policy. I'm not the Secretary for Health and Human Services, bro, and I'm bothering to check into it. Look, the next quote from NBC News is completely in line with the bizarre way that people see Trump as this sort of blank canvas to project their ideas upon. Because this idea works until it doesn't. Trump will say anything to make you like him, but he's not going to fuck with big agriculture to please the fake Kennedy. So just chow this down from NBC on September 25.
Yes. After endorsing Trump, Kennedy wrote in a Wall Street Journal op-ed that the US could, and I quote, revisit pesticide and other chemical use standards if Trump wins. He pointed to a 2019 study that listed 72 pesticides approved in the US that are banned or in the process of being phased out in the European Union. But ProPublica reporter Sharon Lerner found that under the Trump administration, the EPA pressured its scientists to approve potentially hazardous chemicals and alter scientific results to make them seem safer. Lerner first published her findings when she worked for The Intercept, revealing that EPA staffers deleted information about potential hazards from agency assessments. At the time, the EPA said it would investigate any alleged violations of scientific integrity and take appropriate action.
You just know that Trump is not going to do what RFK Jr. wants on this one. That's his history. That's who he is. He is a fucking lapdog.
Well, it's the farm lobby, and it's
lobby.
congressmen coming to him from places like Wyoming, from places like, well, even California, from places like Nevada and Arizona, and saying, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The fuck is this clown doing?
They will shoot him before this fucking goes through. There will be a farmer on a roof. It'll happen. So this is the only thing. Now Trump has no terms left to serve, although he does like hinting that he's got a third term left in him. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe he really is going to go full cook-up. I don't know.
This is the big thing about the Trump presidency, and a reason that we shouldn't be too despondent about it. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of it won't be good. A lot of it will be very, very funny.
A lot of it will be very, very funny.
Trump was hilarious in his first term. I mean, there were so many episodes, so many incidents there where he just. You know, when I remember him marching with the Queen, they were inspecting the guard. What do you call it? Anyway, and he'd obviously told him, his advisors all told him, don't step in front of the Queen. Don't, whatever you do, don't get in front of the Queen. Just walk behind the Queen. Just half a step, half a step, half a step. And you could tell he's sort of working these things mnemonically through that tortured rat's maze of a brain of his. And as they turned after seeing one regiment or other, he found himself in front. He found himself in front of the Queen. And for a while there, his legs splayed out in different directions. And then for the next 10 seconds, it seemed like he'd forgotten how to walk. And
oh, God, he's an idiot.
But finally, the Queen came back. It was just about the funniest thing I've ever seen. He's a true fucking great physical comic. And I think, look, yes, we could die horribly in a nuclear holocaust, but it might be very, very funny.
It might be very, very funny.
There might be very, very funny indeed. And when I remember how much I laughed at Trump, I think it was in Bell with the Queen, I'd just say 4 more years. 4 more years.
I must say, the real winner is content. I said that before, I'll say it again.
Right. It's going to be fantastic.
But look, when it comes down to the agri lobby, you know there's no chance it's going to play out. Like, this is just going to be a fucking complete nightmare. But seed oils particularly, I have no real, I don't love seed oils. They are kind of shit for you, but they also are tasteless and cheap. And that's exactly what, like we said, that's Donald's lunch. You don't fuck with Donald's lunch. But the canola farmers, the soybean farmers, the corn farmers, if this actually plays ahead, they're all fucked. And not only that, but the trade wars are going to fuck them too, because no one's going to take their fucking produce.
Who's going to win that one?
Oh, my God. And if RFK Jr. actually manages to reduce reliance on seed oils, food prices will go up.
You know, that's what I mean. It's like, Bobby, you live in Santa Monica.
You're a Kennedy. You've never known struggle in your life for a moment.
That's right. You can pop out and drop 300 or 400 of unnecessary expenditure on clean foods.
You only shop at Whole Foods.
Yeah, well, I think he'd regard Whole Foods as an outrage. You know,
It's probably the New World Order. Yeah.
Anyway, this comes from the Seattle Times. A final claim is that we're eating more of these oils than in the past. These are seed oils, and that it is also increasing certain chronic health conditions. One study, for example, found that levels of linoleic acid, apologies for the pronunciation there, the main omega-6 in seed oils in US adults have more than doubled during the past 50 years. But correlation does not equal causation. You should have this tattooed on your forehead, Bobby. Correlation does not equal causation. We're eating more of these oils because they're used in ultra-processed and fast foods. Put the bucket down, Donald.
Mm-hmm.
Which make up a larger share of our diets today than in past decades. Gardner said, those foods aren't good for us, he said, but there's no evidence to suggest that seed oils are what makes them unhealthy.
I hate that word.
I would have said unhealthy.
Unhealthy, yeah. But
anyway, that's just bizarre to blame them and not the foods that they're in. And this is a Gardner again.
Yeah, so this is the thing. Seed oils are shit, right? I'm not going to sit here and cheerlead for canola oil. Like, margarine's weird. But the general rule is that the food that seed oils are in...
I'll just simply tell you, the only reason margarine is yellow is they add a colouring aid because it actually is a clear... Clear
it's
thing.
either clear or apparently it can turn black. That might not be true, actually. I'm referring to something that I'm almost certain I learned when I was cooking up.
This may well be an urban myth too, but the flavouring that they add to banana paddle pops, and I'm a fan.
I bet you actually eat them.
It's the same that you use they use as a constituent in paint.
Oh, nice. That is fucking charming.
True or not. But I'm still eating the paddle pops. And
it just reminds you of
nothing bad ever happened to me.
Your fond youthful habit of eating paint chips back when paint was good.
I used to chew pens almost to the nub, plastic sort of pens, and I've swallowed a lot of that stuff too.
And you turned out fine. You only got
I've turned out fine. That's right. So I guess we've been talking about this all the way through. How long will RFK last in the Trump fold? I think, given that Trump is now lord and master of US politics, and he most certainly is, he has way more authority than he has in 2016, and not just domestically, but globally as well.
He's got the king's rule as well, He now knows he won't get done for anything, so he's just going to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Well, I'd say, look, at least just keep an eye on it. You know that there are competence issues around him, and there will be some very, very funny moments around the Trump presidency, and some really odd stuff too. I don't think our good mate Gatesy, and I'm really glad I read that spray because it's the biggest spray of all time.
It's nice.
I've never seen anyone to be so verbally punished in all my life. I think Gatesy won't get through the Senate hearings. I think he'll be rejected. And Trump will go, oh, well, I did my best. See, Gates has already resigned.
He's already resigned from the fucking house.
Well, off you go there. You don't have any chicken, do you? You couldn't just pop out and give me a bucket of chicken.
Well, now it tastes
so I don't think
Gates
is going to make it. But I think given Trump's authority and given the fact that the GOP have the majority in the Senate, but it's only a narrow one, I think Gates should be the only one who won't survive that process. So RFK will make it through. But the problems will be when he starts tinkering with particularly, the food or the farm lobby, the agricultural lobby, and through big companies like Monsanto going, Donald,
stop it.
Can you get rid of this guy? I've got Falcon shit all over me here, and I've had a fucking gut full of him.
Emails are going to start.
And that's when he'll go. And it'll be loud and horrible, and then, like a lot of them, they'll all say, Donald Trump, he's probably a sociopath,
He'll join the ranks of disaffected ex-Trump staff. We'll see. I really don't know how it's going to play out, but like I say, when I saw that hat saying "Make America Healthy Again" in the ring with Tyson, I just knew this has now become a part of the American psyche. For better or worse, the only way you could make this work is to subsidize the shit out of healthy food. And if they do that, I'm all for it. But if you think that's going to get past the fucking Department of Government Efficiency, I think you've got nothing coming.
Donald has got the feet up with a couple of burgers in his hand. Nah.
Yeah, look, neutral, cheap oils make KFC taste the way it does. when Donald realizes that changes, he's going to go mental. And if you remember, Michelle Obama tried to make school food healthy and get people to move every now and then, and they called her a socialist and went fucking mental. So I just...
Well, her husband wore that off-white suit. Remember
the tan
that?
suit.
That was a scandal.
The terrorist tan
He
suit.
wore a sort of light, what would you call it, fawn grey, light grey, and sort of off-white, and it was a scandal.
I miss those times. They felt good.
Well, we do have one treat for you, listeners. We just had to have a look at Eric. Eric, look, if Bill Clinton was the comeback kid and Donald Trump's election makes him the comeback king, what does that make the good-looking boy, Eric? Now, as we know, Eric loves his dad. Love you, Dad! And his dad is the next president and also the previous president.
Ooh.
When Eric was told this by his wife in a series of visual aids involving bunnies, he lost his already shaky grip on the space-time continuum, pissed his pants, and woke up with his head in the microwave again.
Oh, just like old times.
Eric needed a good glyphosate bath after that. It's very good for his skin. Really just strips a couple of layers away and just takes the itch.
He's got to stop eating American pasta. I've been telling him this for years.
Been on the American pasta. Eric's dad was the 45th and will be the 47th POTUS. Right. Now, it's fair to say that during Eric's dad's first crack at the White House, Eric's consummate skills were overlooked, and he spent a lot of his time feeling bored. And the amusement he got was ripping off children's cancer charities, which is fun, I'm told.
It is fun. It's fun and profitable.
But this time will be different.
So sad.
This time, Eric will not be fobbed off with being given the title of Secretary of State for cleaning up the shit left by the White House raccoons. Eric did that in 2017, and he did it well, although some of the White House raccoons did contract rabies from Eric after a stare down at the White House rubbish bins got out of hand. Don't bite the raccoons, Eric.
Fair.
Listeners, this is an exclusive to the Conditional Release program. Eric has been made Secretary of the Nuclear Codes.
Good.
It's a huge promotion and a significant expression of faith from his dad, who Eric loves. Love you, Dad!
Love you, Dad!
When Eric's dad told him about giving him the job of Secretary of the Nuclear Codes, Eric asked his dad if being Secretary meant he had to wear a dress to work. No, he was told by his dad, who he loves. Love you, Dad! But Eric would have to memorise the nuclear codes. Now, it is fair to say that committing an exhaustive list of passwords is not Eric's strong suit.
Got to make a mnemonic.
But, and this is the genius of Eric, he changed the codes to the name of his favourite animal, the rhinoceros, the hippopotame, a fish.
Oh, good.
It's just 4 words, and I don't think even Eric can fuck this one up, or he could plunge the world into 1,000 years of... I feel relatively optimistic that Eric will do the job well, although when his dad, who Eric loves, love you, Dad!
Love you, Dad!
Orders a fillet of fish from Macca's, Eric could trigger World War III. The way Eric is back, and if he could just keep the keratosis at bay with regular glyphosate baths, one a day, Eric, no cheating, then I think he'll be a fine compliment to the pimps, whores, and scumbags in Donald Trump's administration. Well done, Eric.
Well done, son.
You have been listening to the Conditional Release program with your hosts, Jack the Insider and Joel Hill. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. And if you've enjoyed our bullshit, throw us a 5-star review on your podcast app.
I'm just going to say find us on social media. You know what to look for. There's
Maybe we
keywords,
need to change them. I've been reading that out for 4 years. Anyway,
We should kill that.
Probably
but
do.
I'm avoiding Twitter. You can still DM me, whatever. But also, we have a Patreon, so give us money.
There you go. Please do that. Well, I think it sounds more like an order.
It is. Well, I lost a lot of money recently.
Please send us photos of your bank transfers.
I'm going to start up a fucking scam on the phones, Yeah, so I'm from Telstra. Is your fridge ready? You better go chase it.
We'll start a boiler room. And finally, all feedback, tips and death threats should be sent to the conditionalreleaseprogram@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, even if it's to offer us schooners of raw milk, and keep them coming. Botulism.
I'm going to get bird flu just because I'm going to own the libs. Fucking idiots. Thanks, listeners. See you next time.
Yes. We look forward to bringing part 2 to you, listeners, and many more for the rest of the year. See ya.
There's so much content now that Trump won. God, I hate this. See ya.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me, you guys are bastards.